is not just America's tornado alley that sees this weather phenomenon. Many other parts of the world are also susceptible, and some of those places may come as a surprise to you. CNN meteorologist Brandon Miller joins me now, and he used to live in the heart of Oklahoma's tornado alley. He studied and chased these tornadoes at home and around the world. So, first of all, Brandon, thanks. What is it you've lived and studied and chased these tornadoes about that particular area that makes it so susceptible?
Well, Christiane, tornadoes really require specific ingredients. It's almost like making a cake in a way, and these ingredients only come together in certain places of the world. This portion of the U.S., the central and southern plains of the U.S., is really the best place where these come together. Some of these ingredients include warm, moist air that comes from the Gulf of Mexico here in the U.S., cold, polar, Arctic air that streams down from Canada, and you get these dips in the jet stream that provides the wind energy that these supercells, which are the most powerful thunderstorms and the ones that produce a majority of the tornadoes, will occur. You also get warm, dry air that comes in from Mexico and the desert southwest of the U.S., and that really is those perfect ingredients to make supercells and therefore tornadoes.
So talking about the other places that are surprising around the world, I mean, I was really surprised when I heard the place which has the most frequent ones. Explain where it is and why that is the case.
Certainly. So tornadoes can occur anywhere in the world, basically. They occur on all continents, really, except for Antarctica. Here in Tornado Alley in the U.S. is definitely where the largest, the violent, strong tornadoes, certainly what we saw in Moore yesterday is an example of this. And that's really unique, the only place where those massive tornadoes really occur with any regularity. But other parts of the world do see tornadoes. Canada actually sees the second most number as far as countries, and that's really an extension of the U.S. Tornado Alley extending up into southern Canada, but also parts of Europe. Really all of mainland Europe is susceptible to tornadoes from time to time. That includes even Great Britain. Parts of Africa, you get into East Asia. One of the other highest concentrated areas occurs in East India and Bangladesh. Bangladesh has seen a number of very devastating tornadoes, and when they occur in these locations, they really occur without much warning. There's not a good warning system in place like there is here in the U.S., and there's also very vulnerable housing there. So we see tremendous death tolls. In 1989, for instance, we had over 1,000 people killed in Bangladesh from a particularly strong tornado. And again, moving into East Asia, they will see them in parts of eastern China, all the way down into Australia, New Zealand. They see them as well. The main thing you'll notice is they're close to a body of water, close to that warm, moist, buoyant air that can cause tornadoes and supercells to form.
So go back to England, because who would imagine that? And I read that it has the highest concentration of tornadoes per square kilometer. Why, though, are they not as devastating? What is it about the weather?
Right. Well, they certainly don't see as many as the U.S. They only see around, most estimates are around 30 a year. But when you average that out over how small the U.K. is, it comes out to a higher concentration of tornadoes, more tornadoes per square kilometer than even the U.S. But most of these tornadoes tend to be very short-lived and very weak. They don't have that warm, moist air that they have in the southern U.S. It's just not as hot. So therefore, these tornadoes are driven really by wind shear. That's a change of winds in direction. So if you are in the UK, you obviously know it's very windy frequently. Those winds will spin up real quick and normally very weak tornadoes, not the big, devastating, violent tornadoes like we saw in Oklahoma yesterday.
And finally, and very briefly, of course, everybody's going to be saying, well, how does climate change play a role in what we've just seen? And this comes up every time there is tornado season in the United States. Is there a clear link or not?
Well, no is the answer. There's not a clear link. Go back to what I said at the beginning. Making a tornado is like making a cake. If you add more warm air from global warming, that'd be like adding more sugar to your cake. It's not going to necessarily give you more cake. It's just going to give you a sugary mess after a while. It's really how all those ingredients come together that's going to determine tornado frequency and intensity. What we probably see, and what most research up to this point has said, is you may see a shift from that tornado alley to maybe to the east, maybe a little farther north, as you get a little bit more warm air from climate change. But basically, the short answer is no, we don't know. The climate models we use to forecast into the future for climate change, they're not fine enough to see tornadoes and individual supercells, so we struggle to model that going into the future. So things like heat waves and cold snaps that last a number of weeks, we can point to those with pretty good certainty and say that they're driven by climate change. But something on a time scale and a spatial scale as small as tornadoes, we just can't say that with any type of certainty.
Brandon Miller, thank you very much.